All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see so many participants already in, and I'm sure we'll have more in the due course. Good afternoon. I would just like to tell you that by default, your setting is on a mute. Your videos will not be on. So if you have any queries, please put it on the chat box and we will immediately make a note of it and we'll get back to you during the course of the meeting or after the meeting, and we will definitely try and cover all your queries in the process. All right. I would like to start here as we like to respect time. So for the people who have joined us on time, we would like to start. So good afternoon, and it is extremely heartening to see all of you coming in on time. As you may have understood that this forum is to get all our doubts cleared and queries answered about the different boards and curricula that our wards or our relatives or people whom we know have a lot of queries about. Now, as the options are increasing and it is getting exceedingly difficult to make the right decision, we have just the right person with us who can answer all your queries. Before I start, I would like to introduce you to her. Mrs. Fatima Agarkar, who is the trustee and consultant with different academic boards and has set up over 40 schools across Pan-India from scratch. She is the revered recipient of various national and international prestigious awards like the Top 50 Young Educators, Young Achievers Award, Asia's Best Enterprising Educator, Best Edupreneur, Best Leadership, one of the 10 finest inspirational educator, and the list goes on. With her wide-ranging experience and expertise, she has gained a deep understanding of various academic boards. So yes, she's a great resource for us, and she is the right person to give us all the insights about the various boards with her deep understanding and experience. So I would like to welcome Fatima ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us, and I would hand over the forum to you now.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be welcomed and hosted by the Ashoka Group. I do say I miss my physical presence in Nasik. I was there in January. I had the pleasure of interacting with all your wonderful parents. While I missed that in the real world, I'm going to make up for it in the virtual world. So thank you, big thank you for this opportunity. What I think is interesting about the Ashoka Group is this whole initiative of building communities. As an educator, someone who spent 20 years in the education space, I can't tell you how important it is to communicate. And I think that's one thing the Ashoka Group does really well. And it's not just about the Ashoka parents. I understand today we have families that are not part of the Ashoka world, but this is an opportunity for all of us to connect. And I think COVID-19 has taught us that the world is actually a very small place. We're able to reach out, share experiences, clear doubt, and I know this is a great opportunity for doing it. I don't think on a Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I would have had dads in attendance. But as I saw people log in, I'm so happy fathers are involved. I hope the grandparents are listening as well. And I just hope the families come together because that's the part of that building communities. It's a very important topic. I dare say it's a topic, last time I was in Nasik, a parent told me, Fatima, this is more important than picking my husband. Which is the right academic board? Which is that board that our children will be nurtured under so that they have the right foundation for life, right foundation for university, right foundation for their careers. And I think one thing COVID-19 has introduced us to the fact is that the world is no longer how we understood it. It's volatile, it's different. We never thought we would be in lockdown for 4 weeks, but here we are. We never thought we'll embrace online learning the way we are. So which is that right academic board? Therefore, that factors in all of this. So parents, I'm actually going to walk you through a presentation that I've put together over years and years of experience. I think Sudipta mentioned, I love the word young, by the way, Sudipta, when you say I'm young, it keeps me energetic. Yeah, but over the years, as I've worked with parents, I'm a fellow parent as well. I have a 14-year-old, and I know where that pain comes from, because I was actually thinking about, had I not had my own school by the time my son Raj was born, what would I have picked? And you know how, and from one parent to another, this presentation is really going to be about a parent talking to a fellow parent. I know your questions. I've thought about it too. My father-in-law has asked me that. My father has asked me that. My own husband has asked me that. So a lot of what I'm going to share with you comes also from personal experience. On that note, I have many, many slides, and I want to walk you through that. Just a quick housekeeping rule for all you parents. This is an opportunity for me to share, connect with you. This presentation could have been emailed to all of you. You probably never read it. But you have an opportunity to hear me, spend time listening to me. I'm always available for the Ashoka Group to answer every question that you have. But today is the opportunity to listen. Don't be on your phones clicking. You know what? You'll never look at that picture again. But what you will remember is what Fatima spoke about. And I think that is very, very important. So focus on what I'm trying to explain to you. I promise your every question will be answered, because these 55 slides pretty much have a lot of your questions. This is, by the way, my 120th parenting workshop about the same topic. So trust me. And on that note, I am going to share my screen with everyone. I hope it's visible. The wonderful IT team at Ashoka Group of Schools. Are we ready with my screen share?
Yes, it's visible.
So, okay, so right academic boards, okay? What are they? What's the difference between a board and a curriculum? You know what, you educators just try and confuse us as parents. We're laymen, we don't understand all of this. Aren't Indian national boards equipped to handle our children more? You know, Fatima, I was in a state board, I was in a national board, I've done well. I don't know what the fuss about these international boards are. So many myths, all our dinner conversations are only about which board. You know what, I just think international schools are there to charge more money. So these questions are hard truths that we face as educators. Today is not about picking the right academic board. Today is about understanding different academic boards. Every board, and I'm stating this for the record, is beautiful, works with a bit of science, has a thought process, has a history to it. But with time, some new ideas have come in. This is about understanding what will work for your family, what will work for your child. Is my child able to cope? Will my child enjoy it? I think that is really relevant. Sudipta's already introduced me, so well, I take you through the next one. Been there, done that. I promise you that I'm going to actually talk to you as a parent. So let me not go through my profile again. Thank you, Sudipta, for summing it up. I always believe before I start a presentation to establish credentials, because why should you be listening to me? I mean, do I have enough experience? Do I have enough expertise to be able to answer your question? I'm going to say, I think 20 years in working with many proposers, setting up many schools, gives me that comfort of answering all your questions. So what's our topic for today? Very important. We're going to decode these different academic boards, and I'm going to help you understand it. I'm going to help you make that decision for your family. I call it informed choice. And of course, a little bit about the admission process. What if my child can't cope? Can I switch? All those, what I call frequently asked questions that come my way. I want to start off with someone who inspired me to be in education. This is Martin Luther King. And for me, today, what he said is very, very important. He said it many years ago. The function of education is to teach, and to teach intensively. Intelligence plus character. I cannot tell you how important it is to hear this as an educator and as a parent because of what we face through with COVID-19. Suddenly we've realized, my child making a decision, organizing himself, doing it independently is far more important than me getting on WhatsApp and figuring out what the homework was. Marks at the end of the day, board examinations were cancelled in wake of COVID-19. Is that the only way my child will learn? Because they have to take an exam at the end of it? What is intelligence vis-a knowledge? A lot of questions have come up, and parents have started recognizing that there must be something more, with something more. So I have a video to play for you. This video made a lot of sense pre-COVID-19. I can't tell you how important it is you watch it now, because with COVID-19, you'll recognize our world changed. This is what we were talking as educators about our world. So, what this video always reminded me pre-COVID-19, that the world would be volatile as we live this corona pandemic, which is not just restricted to our country, but the world at large. It reminds us as educators that the world tomorrow is going to be this uncertain. Therefore, anything that the school does needs to prepare our children to face that. We cannot be grappling with technology. We cannot be unprepared. We need to make sure our children are ready. And I think in wake of that, this presentation today will be interesting for you. But I often tell parents, before you start thinking of the academic board, why are you picking the school that you have? Maybe a lot of you are part of the Ashoka group, and you must have thought this through. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter. You must have thought a lot of this. You made that choice for your son or daughter's school. Where does learning happen? Is there sport in it? Is there creativity? Is it only restricted to textbooks? How safe is the learning space? I can't tell you how important that is today. How is technology used in school? I can't tell you how important it is today. And those schools that hadn't embraced technology, those schools that were so confined to their classrooms, today, as a report card in the industry, are struggling. It's the progressive ones that have already worked with their parents and children. How are children assessed? What about special needs? What about achievements outside of academics? Where do the teachers come from? What does the school do to skill these teachers? Does the school communicate with us? Is it a co-educational school? That is the backdrop for the educational maze. The choice of school and the academic board that you pick is just going to be one part of what that school is made up of. There are many the aspects of it. But you know what? Today we're going to focus on that one aspect. It's not about the vision. Right now, it's about, please explain to us, what is the education world and what are the different boards. So I've done a nice graphical presentation for you, because a lot of us would find ourselves where the state board and the national board icons are. You know what? Our world was because we grew up then. It's a simple history lesson, ladies and gentlemen who are tuned in. When we became a free country, of course, there were sensible people in the government, decision makers who decided that we need to be an educated society to be able to progress. That's basis of all economy. Everyone will tell you that. The more literacy, the more progress a nation makes. So then, you know, our country with its demographics, we are north, south, east, west, I dare say, they could be mini states in itself. They had to be a level playing ground. So that's where the state board came in. You know, a bit of the culture of that region defined what the state board is, and it was sort of a level playing field for everyone. North, south, east, west, irrespective of where you are, if you follow this basic principle, what has to be taught in English, math, science, everyone is at the same level. But you know what? History also teaches you that there is evolution. I mean, I keep telling my son that I had computers introduced to me when I was in grade 10, 9 and 10, ICSE syllabus. That's when we learned the word World Wide Web. He doesn't even know about the www. They don't even write that. It's HTTP, you know, or they just write what they are searching. Not like us, you know, 2 lines and those words. So their world is very different from ours, and that is called evolution. I can't say that, you know, the world was happy the way it was. Things move. And that happened when independence came in, right? Because during the British time, we did have Cambridge schools. A lot of the private schools were attached to what they call the British curriculum, which is Cambridge as we see it today. So what our decision policy makers decided to do was, you know, create their ownership setup where they were responsible autonomously for what they believe should be the syllabus or the academic board that will certify children in grade 10. This became then the national board. So I'm talking about 1956. For example, my mother, I'm from Mumbai, of course, you know, Sudipta would have told you that. I went to the same school that my mother did. But when my mother finished her Cambridge metric exam, she actually did the O-levels, which was the Cambridge board. But when I came into school and I graduated, I received the ICSE certificate. This actually tells you that ICSE is an offshoot of Cambridge. Because what policy makers at that point said, you know what, we've gained independence, we're now our own people, we have our own identity, we're in a position, why don't we create this culture of learning about India and the Indian subcontinent, because it's important. That's how ICSE and CBSE came into existence. And now don't ask me why there are 2 competing boards based out of Delhi. You know, my simple answer to that question is, these are private organizations. These are self-funded. It's like, why does Maruti and Suzuki, Maruti and Hyundai exist? It exists because they are private players and they both can you know, showcase their services or their products and have people following them or buying them. Similar is CBSE and ICSE. Now, back in the days when we were growing up, and I say we, I'm 45, you know, a lot of us are in the same age group, and a lot of you might be much younger. So CBSE and ICSE, you know, the composition of the people who come together, you know, the management, if you may, had a little bit of influence to what became the perception for these boards. CBSE had a lot of people from IIT, IIM, who naturally were talented and gifted with science and math. That doesn't mean CBSE schools don't have language or don't have history or don't have geography. It's just the perception that stayed with CBSE. For that matter, ICSE was known to be, you know, language capability is very strong if you're in an ICSE school. because the people who constituted the management of the board, or framing of that board, were people who loved literature, who loved social sciences. Humanities was their area of specialization. That doesn't mean science or math was a weak point. You see how in this country we form our opinions, and opinions are very hard to break by. If you ask me, SSC, CBSE, ICSE, quite frankly, parents, facts don't change. I cannot change English. I cannot change math. History cannot be changed, as much as all our leaders want us to believe differently. Nothing changes. Content is pretty much similar in any of these boards. And I'm still on the national boards. I haven't taken you through international. So what's the big deal? The difference really is what kind of questions are asked at the board examinations, which is 9th and 10th. And how much portion are the children taking on in terms of their quantum. That really is the difference between SSC, CBSE, ICSE. So right now, if you ask me in terms of content, in terms of how much more the children are learning, state boards are the starting point. Add to that, the CBSE curriculum. Above that is ICSE, because ICSE is, takes on a little more deeper learning. Honestly, SSC, CBSE, ICSE are grade 9 and 10 examinations. You can school your child up to grade 10, but you won't, right? Because we discussed the list. You want your children to go to school because of social development, because of social skills. You want them to make friends. You want them to be exposed to sport. All of this is not possible for you to do it at home with your families. So this is therefore important why you put your child into school. Now, what the school takes on really is the 9th and 10th syllabus. Of course, CBSE has a framework from grade 1. ICSE gives you targets. Please understand, SSC, CBSE, ICSE, therefore, are also watching what each one is doing. And can I teach without sense? Can I just go ahead and teach nursery children about the black hole? It won't make sense. So I have to teach content which is age appropriate. That's how each of these boards will frame the content that they will finally assess. You can't now question why CBSE is questioning only this, but ICSE questions that. That is the board decision. Your school has adopted that board. Wow, let's go with that, and you will follow that. Just simply put, our world was simple 20 years ago when we were within this national and state board world. Honestly, there weren't options. When I was in school, there wasn't an international school except for Doon, which is a residential school in Dehradun. There just weren't international schools. So basically, we picked those. But as the world has evolved, remember I told you from state boards, national boards came into existence? Like that, about 20 years ago in this country, there seemed to be a disruption like what COVID-19 has done for us today. It's changed the way we think. Suddenly, my child is cooking, I'm telling him, "Wah, beta, kamal kar diya." Because this was not important to us before COVID-19, because we had our house help, everything is done. Today, even basic essentials, we're valuing. We're learning how to ration. We're prioritizing all that because everything is not available. This is that disruption that COVID-19 has done. And 20 years ago, there was another disruption. Because remember the video I showed you? That it's not sitting one behind the other in a classroom. It's not learning in silos. Itna hi bolo, itna hi rato. That world has changed, because if today we haven't created a vaccine and the whole world is struggling because we hadn't created enough thinkers at the school level. If we knew 22 years ago SARS created that mini pandemic, we should have been prepared. We did nothing about it because we didn't change the way we were teaching. This is what international schools have been talking about for the time that they have been in that country, that we need to get away from the textbooks. We need to expose the children to a lot more. And you know what? Because it's all about thinking. because it's about questioning, because it's about independence, because it's getting the kids to do it and giving it to them. International schools have got this reputation of saying, so I have two lines of thought. Some people say, Fatima, ये international school में जाते हैं ना, सब fancy होता है, कुछ पढ़ते नहीं है. जितना रिगर होता था ना, हमने जो स्टेट बोर्ड में किया और आईसीएसई में किया, वो रो के हमने पढ़ा था, ये वो इंटरनेशनल स्कूल्स में नहीं होता है. ये तो बहुत लेजी हो जाता है बच्चा, क्योंकि सब आसान है. Please, parents, understand that just because something is easy or something is understood doesn't make it easy. That doesn't mean learning is not happening. Please understand that there is as much academic rigor in any of these boards as the board allows it to be. So international schools came in and changed our 20 years ago in this country. And I'm so glad Nasik has already got some of these international programs, because that is the future. These boards are thinking far ahead. They're not thinking 2020. They're not thinking 2040. They're already thinking to the next century, because their curriculum gets revised basis of changing times. So there were two international boards, because kaise hamara world simple reh sakta hai? Educators are there to confuse all of us. So pehle ऐसे state boards the, CBSE or ICSE. Abhi to now Fatima is adding two more words, Cambridge and IB. And then उसमें there's one little one at the bottom, Steiner. ये क्या है भाई? हमने तो सिर्फ IB के बारे में सुना था, अभी Cambridge भी आ गया, and now you're talking about Steiner. Let's go a bit slowly. Safe to say, this is the split of different boards in our country. Beg your pardon. Cambridge and IB are like CBSE, ICSE. Cambridge, if you remember the word, is actually an arm of the University of Cambridge, which is 800 years of legacy, and kind of what educators call the mother of all boards. It means that they are the board that defines syllabus, what has to be taught age appropriately. IB, on the other hand, is based out of Switzerland. They are an international board. They actually focus a lot more on how to teach. They're not so concerned about the content, like Cambridge says, this has to be taught, this has to be taught. IB saying, you know what, content, of course you'll know, because your country will follow whatever, you can do whatever, but they were more interested in how to teach. Cambridge said, you know what, I'm not only interested in content, which has to be taught, but I'm also interested in making sure that teachers are teaching well enough. So in my opinion, and you know, we all have our personal opinions, right? Thank God for our democracy, and we don't have a dictatorship. I believe that Cambridge has that wonderful balance that will work for family. That is closer to everything that we want for our children, for our to be exposed to. Steiner, see, it's floating. I've not put Steiner anywhere close to SSE, CBSE, ICSE, Cambridge, or IB, because SSE, CBSE, ICSE, Cambridge, and IB are certifying boards, which basically means that I can give a mark sheet at the end of the grade 10 examinations. All these board examinations happen between March and first week of April, which basically means you'll get your 10 standard mark sheet at the end of May, giving you an opportunity of getting into any national college of your choice. If you wish to continue in international boards, you can. Steiner, the one that is down, is not a certifying board. Steiner is only about thinking about how to teach, not content, and they cannot give you actually the end of grade 10. So I think I answered your question, which was in your mind, that you know what, it's easier to get into national colleges if I do state or CBSE or ICSE than it is for Cambridge and IB. In fact, one myth clarified, irrespective of SSE, CBSE, ICSE, Cambridge, or IB, your children will get into national college. And you know why? Because it's a central processing system. You have to click, it will tell you which board. That's fine. Now, computers registering this information, not a human being. Then it's going to ask you for your percentage, irrespective of which academic board you are. You will get a percentage, and then you need to type it in. So here's another question that I get from a lot of parents. फातिमा, हाँ, तो ये तो बात हो गई ना कि फिर CBSE और ICSE तो get into national boards because Fatima, they to get 100 on 100. ये Cambridge और IB में बड़ा मुश्किल होता है, उनको 100 नहीं मिलता है. Sorry to say, parents, this is another myth. And I'll explain that as I explain the next slide. So just have a look at our India statistics as we speak. More than 50,000 CBSE schools, the rest are all state run. Usme se the 50% that are non-state run, a few Cambridge schools, a few ICSE schools. Baki ka to is all CBSE. So then that becomes the number one board. But statistics are statistics. Just because there are more schools doing CBSE doesn't mean that that's the number one board. Please understand the performance of the board. Please understand how many children fail. Please understand how many children are passing with tuitions. Please understand how some of the children are also dropping out. So let's not look at statistics and just say, ha, ye to number one board ho gaya. Do you know this statistic that I've put out of 10,000 ICSE schools? That is now slowly going to be overrun by IB and Cambridge schools. That number is going to be 30,000 in India, including BMC schools that are now looking at Cambridge, because they are saying if we have to prepare our children for the future, we need a board that can work with it, because we want a board that makes our children think. These are some of the websites you'll find easily available. I have listed it down for one reason, because this is my personal view. As I go through these board, websites where they communicate to parents, for me as an educator, I have to be responsible, because as a parent, I have to receive information from an educator. And as an educator, I'm thinking, you know what? The most communicative is the Cambridge. Even in COVID-19, first board to take a decision, we are not going to host the 10th standard examination. Life is more important than the board examinations. Every child will pass internal assessments. They already had a plan B. Do you know Wimbledon is the only organization in the whole world that actually has an insurance for COVID-19? Nobody else had predicted this. So for me, that's where University of Cambridge also is, where actually Wimbledon is very, very close. They think ahead. Cambridge was the first communicative board. CBSE also followed suit. But perhaps the international flavor of the curriculum gives the international boards a lot more flexibility and quicker decision making, which is why they're growing in popularity. So, it was to be very simple. Okay, Fatima, I've understood now there are national boards and international boards. I got it. SSC, ICSE, CBSE on one side, and then you've got IB and Cambridge on the other side. Now, so you still have to make me understand which one's better. Wait, I'll come to it. But also, I think some schools are taking part of this program, part of that program. Thankfully, Nasik is very intense in the way they're doing it. This is actually a Mumbai statistic, where one part of one program and one part of another board, and they're making it what I call the Mumbai Bhelpuri. Fortunately, Nasik, like the Ashoka Group, for example, they are a Cambridge school. They follow everything under one, and I'm going to explain that to you in a bit. Let's get to the differences first when by making you understand what are the unique strengths of every board. Remember, I am not comparing two boards. I am telling you what are the strengths of this board, what they are doing. And of course, I have my personal favorite, which I'm going to share, but your personal favorite does not have to be mine. This is where you as a family make that independent choice. So CBSE, there are NCERT books. It is a grade 10 examination. It is also a grade 12 examination. It's structured curriculum, taught in English, like ICSE, I mean, similar. Like, they are apples in the same basket. One is yellow, one is orange, one is, one is red, but they're still apples. So both of these boards are very similar in that sense. ICSE also has a variety of subjects. Remember, ICSE is an offshoot of Cambridge. So ICSE did not create rich content. They've looked at what existed by another board and they embraced it to their Indian demographics, which is the Indian subcontinent. Variety of subjects, it's certified, grade 10 examination. So let's just understand CBSE versus ICSE. I told you, both are apples. One is yellow, one is, you might like the yellow apple, you might like the red apple. Very little to choose. For me, as an educator, where I come in is that I am a product of an ICSE school. I chose an international school for my son for two simple reasons. My teachers won't like to hear this, but I hated my school. Because my school made it very academically rigorous. You were judged basis of how well you did in a board exam, a class test or unit. And basically, no one cared whether you could speak, dance, jump, you were good with foreign language. As long as you made the grade, that was it. I didn't want that world for my child. 14 years ago, when I had to make that choice, I wasn't going to put my child in ICSE for two simple reasons. While I loved the depth of content, I wasn't convinced that ICSE was moving in the same direction as I wanted it, as I personally wanted it. When I looked at the examination papers, and I'm an educator, remember, so I have that dual advantage of knowing, I was saddened that ICSE, instead of retaining its rigor, tried to dilute a lot of what was being taught. It baffles me how a kid in grade 9 and 10 can give up math and science. I mean, I understand if your child has a learning disability. I was always weak in math and I was always weak in science. But back then, we had to still take the math and the science paper, and that determined your overall grade. Today, best of 5 tells you whether you're going to get 100 or 100. For me, that's very limiting because that is grade. That is not learning and that's not education. And sorry to say, parents, please don't tell me, नहीं फातिमा ये तो ठीक है, वो कॉलेज में चला जाएगा ना, फिर देखेंगे का टाइम नहीं आएगा. It is this problem that we are faced as a country. 1.6 billion people in our country, and we are still not able to sort it out. The problem is because we don't change. We only think in that way, which is Marx oriented. So please understand that I picked an international school for my son because I wanted something more. Unfortunately, with CBSE and ICSE, I found that they were strict with their own structure to be able to go beyond. This is a personal view, and I still feel you can be in a CBSE or an ICSE school, provided that works for your family. Provided that that school is handling it in the way it is. So you might have to this decision is not based on just which academic board. It's basis of a lot of other factors as well. So I've just told you, CBSE, ICSE, really, I don't see the difference between them as of now. SSE or ICSE, yes, SSE is slightly more diluted in content. I've explained you in mind as an educator, it's SSE, CBSE, and then ICSE. And I'm hoping each of these boards do a lot more, think of more futuristic learning, but I'm just telling you what it is at the moment. And all right, now we're getting into the national and the international schools debate. I will get to this slide a little later because I first need to introduce you to what IB board is. IB stands for International Baccalaureate, IBO, International Baccalaureate Organization, headquartered in Switzerland. It has 3 baby programs. Okay, well, it has 3 programs. I beg your pardon, not baby programs. It has 3 programs, which is the primary years program, the one in orange and yellow. Then it goes to the middle years program, and then it goes to the DP program, which is here in a snapshot in your layman's word translated as nursery to 5 BYP, grade 6 to 10 is the MYP, middle years program, and the diploma program is 11th and 12th. Statistically wise, the most popular programs pan-India seem to be PYP, which is primary years program, nursery to 5, and then the diploma program, which is 11th and 12th. Also, ladies and gentlemen, everyone viewing this, please understand this is also a global statistic. I think each board has their own strengths. IB's greatest strength is the diploma program, which is 11th and 12th. IB as a academic board, which is certifying, and if schools embrace it, does come at a higher price point. I must admit that. This is because of the royalty that a school needs to invest, be paid to, IB, that's headquartered in Switzerland. So there is, there's a royalty to be paid, which is why you find IB schools at a slightly expensive, north of 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs. Part of the reason is because there's a huge fee payable to the certifying board. So the way the IB works is they have, they're based on a philosophy. They focus on the process. They focus on learning. They want children to learn in a particular format. Very strict about how they want this process to be. Now, in my experience as an educator, I find that perhaps the board that has now become very dominant, which is the Cambridge Assessment International Education, as we popularly called Cambridge. Let's bridge this gap between national board progress and the future. So I find Cambridge, that very progressive, robust board that answers everyone's questions. Because while they're focused on learning, while they're focused on higher order thinking, questioning the kids, they also have a curriculum in place, which is that every school will know what to teach age appropriately, decided by the board, not left to a school to decide. For me, that's a big point as an educator. That means all my teachers have to follow a certain benchmark. That means all my children are progressing at a level that they need to, because if there's something wrong, I need to correct it. I'm just sharing with you my excitement as an educator to work with a board like this. So it's in 160 countries. You must be wondering, how do they take exams at the same time? Because exams do happen at the same time. In March, 160 countries all taking the exams. They're doing it for the last 20, 30 years now. So it is possible. It is controlled by own. We have Indian examiners who are checking the paper. I'll get to this in a little bit. First, let me explain what the Cambridge board is. So what you have is Cambridge Primary, which is grades 1 to 6, Cambridge Secondary, 7 and 8, Cambridge Secondary 2, which is now popularly called IGCSE, 9th and 10th, Cambridge Advanced, which A-level, 11th and 12th. We think of a Cambridge school only as 9th and 10th IGCSE. But a good Cambridge school is when you begin the program, like for example, Ashoka Group. They begin the program end of senior KG going in grade 1 for Cambridge Primary. So when my mum went to Queen Mary's, this is what my mum followed. So that's the big difference for me. So why international boards have become popular? I just told you, it's a lot to do with thinking. So let me explain it this way. I have a pen in this hand. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Unfortunately, all of you are on mute and I'm going to talk. One of the disadvantages of having a large audience is that I cannot see any of you and I can't interact with you, but let's embrace technology. But a lot of parents who've answered this question when I met them, well, it wasn't, and I had asked them about a mobile phone. Assuming I'm asking the question and you're answering it. Okay, what is this? It's an object, correct? It's an instrument to write, correct? It's a pen. Okay, what kind of pen is it? Well, it's not an ink pen. It doesn't have lead in it. It is a ball pen. Oh, so what's the difference between a ball pen and an ink pen? What's the difference between a ball pen and a marker? So what are the components of this pen? Okay, let's open them up. Let's have a look. I have at least 7 things in my hand at the moment, and some of it are falling down. Right. Did you understand what I was trying to do? The kind of questions that I'm asking you are actually linked to different subject areas. What is this? It's an object. Okay, you're building vocabulary. Then I've narrowed it down to saying it's an instrument of writing. Okay. Then I've asked how many components in the pen, mathematical concepts. Then I've asked you what type it is. Science and technology coming in, lead, vis-a-vis ink. Basically, what I'm trying to say, and we could have done this exercise, in person, and maybe one day I'll have the opportunity to do that with you again. Basically, what I'm trying to say is when you ask the questions, you're actually linking different subject areas together, and that's when a child is learning as a whole. When a child learns something like this, as one central idea and everything connecting, isn't it more fun? I remember sitting in my science classes and literally hoping that the floor would give way and I would sink, because I just could not understand chemistry and those formulas. And my teacher did very little to explain anything to me. She just wrote it on the board and we were supposed to memorize it. Imagine if I had explained that formula in equation to how I'm cooking today in the kitchen. Two answers of that, two different compounds mixed together to create a third compound. Honestly, if someone had taught me that, I would have been a better cook for sure, and I would have understood the science of cooking. This is where international schools change it around, and this is why the popularity is good, because finally there is relevance of what is being learned. Can I be very honest? I know my husband and I have launched this company, ACE, and we've created this called Cricket Math. One of the principles, do you know, sport today, a lot more science and math, and it's not all about skill and how hard Yuvraj Singh hits the six. There's a lot of science and math to it. Linear equations. This is a grade 8 syllabus in whichever board that you follow. Nobody knew what a linear graph was like till COVID-19 happened, and every day on NDTV in the night, you 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the night, you put it on, you'll see the linear graph. Linear, non-linear made sense. This is what international schools are talking about. Relevance of content and relating it to real life. Therefore, the children have to read more, the children have to know more. And please understand, international boards means they're dominant in other countries. So apart from knowing everything about your country, you also then have to compare and contrast with the other countries. That means the volume is huge. So one father said, "Arey baap re Fatima, I don't want my kid to know so much. Fir kaun padhayega?" The problem is that we think because we haven't been exposed to that, the pressure will be on us. That's the difference between international and national schools. International schools put onus on the teachers to deliver the content, to make it easier. Smaller classrooms, please understand. Smaller classrooms means I have more time with your child in that classroom. It is more personal. I cannot do this in a group of 45. Teachers, there's more investment in teacher training, not because I want to, because the board forces me to, and I'm paying the board royalty to do that. They are authorizing me every year. They're coming and checking what I'm teaching, how I'm teaching. So it's more regulated in the international schools. Honestly, anything with an audit or regulation means it's better performing. That's a golden rule. As an educator, I'll admit to that. So the difference between the two boards, God, Fatima, you convinced us about CBSE. Now, ye kya hai? Now you're saying IB or Cambridge. So which one is better? I gave you the example of Maruti and Hyundai. I'm going to give you the example of a BMW and a Merc. IB, Cambridge, both have their strengths. For me personally, having worked with both these boards, I find Cambridge more aligned to what we want as management, as a team of educators. There's a lot of science in how this content is planned, and also there is that rigor that we like as Indian parents. And sorry to say, but sometimes we also cater to what you all want as parents. So I find it connects subject areas. There's a lot of creativity. It's hands-on learning. Lots of case studies, lots of discussions, a lot of open book examinations. My children are reading more. They're reading independently. And honestly, international boards, whether it's IB or Cambridge, very honestly are built to help a child succeed. By that I mean, if I was weak in math, so Fatima can take core math. but she's very, very good with her humanities, history, geography. She can take extended. So basically, what these international boards do is they recognize that every child is different. We keep saying that, parents also say, हाँ सब बच्चे एक जैसे नहीं है. But what does the national board do? Judge basis of one syllabus. This difference between IB and Cambridge, that they're building the child to succeed at the board exam. I understand every is not similar. So don't worry about, ये तो बहुत hard हो गया. When you start this process right from grade 1, it's very easy. So the other question is, but Fatima, what if my child, I'm in a transfer job. What if I move tomorrow? How will my child? Please understand, international boards work with two important principles. Cambridge said it has to be adaptable. These boards were constituted because people were moving different countries and they needed something, similar, so that children would not find it difficult. So they have to work with integration. That means they have to know what's happening in other boards. The children have to have those base levels, but of course, these are high in terms of content and assessment. So don't worry that if he does up to grade 5 and then I have to move to Delhi, and which is only CBSE board, kar nahi payega, daudega, because the content is always ahead. So you don't have to worry about, will my child cope? So the difference between Cambridge and IB, and I'm going to tell you, I can't differentiate between the two because they're very good examinations. They're very, very good. When I mean very good examinations is because the type of questions they're asking of a children. I think this is important for you to understand as parents, that it is eventually what your child will be assessed on. And I admit that. It's not like any of these boards are going to do away with examination. There are textbooks, there's homework, there are class tests, there are unit tests, there are yearly examinations. All of this is there. Nothing's changing. It's just the kind of questions that the Cambridge and the IB board ask that make a child think. And that is required for our future. So a few examples that I've put together. This is English. If you have a look at the ICSE questions, what you find is very direct type of questions. Who is the speaker? Who is he speaking to? We talk about what is the attitude? Basically, what? If you've done this book for 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, how many hours you've done the book? Because there's only one book, right? In ICSE. You will be able to answer this. In the last bit that's asking you for an opinion about the person. That is your personal opinion. Out of 20, 18 are all direct questions. So, milega hi na 100 or 100. Have a look at what IGCSE is saying, but don't get scared. Because this is not the first time the child is going to be answering this question. This is how a child is going to be asked from grade 1. After 10 years of being asked the same question or a similar question, of course the child is thinking. This is why these kids are cracking the IIT entrance exams. Cambridge kids. Because these kids are already thinking. It's not in 9th and 10th you start thinking, or just before the entrance exam you start thinking. You're thinking from the time you start school, because that is the beauty of this board. So see, IGCSE is a little more deeper. They are bringing in political. Remember, I told you the whole world comes together. This is an English paper, but they want to understand whether the child has understood political science as well. All of this is important, but this is discussed. The teacher will take the children through field trips, guest speakers, audio visual, so much more to make sure that the children answer this question, which is, in what ways does Shakespeare create the atmosphere in Rome? This was the single most important part of history captured in Julius Caesar as a play. This is, by the way, Shakespeare's famous play. It's changed the Roman civilization. So you needed to know this, and a big part of the play is basically what happened. It's not just the literature. Brutus, your Brutus in your tent, you've seen Caesar's Ghostwriter. Note. How many questions in ICSE? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 questions for 20 marks. That means 2 marks for each. See this IGCSE questions. 20 marks, 2 questions. That means you have to have a lot of depth. You have to answer. You have to give evidence. Again, don't be scared of this. And I if you are, because you are incapable of answering this question. You know why? Because you were never taught this. But if you teach a child from grade 1 to think like that and answer like that, can you imagine what kind of smart individuals will come out in this world? Maybe they will be able to discover, corona-like to solve corona-like problems in the future quicker than our generation has. And then there's the MYP, which is why I told you this is not so popular in the country, because very, very higher order questions. A lot of management feels that IB is not meant for everyone. It's requiring a deeper understanding. It's a question of then getting the right teachers, the families to understand it. A lot of the Indian schools feel that Cambridge, therefore, is the better option. Similar physics question. It's all about velocity. It's all about speed. And just see the way they're asking the same thing. So basically, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of depth and creativity when it comes to Cambridge. ICSE tends to be more direct, and ICSE or CBSE pretty similar. IB is very, very deeper. So on that note, I have to say that the admission cycles for most international schools start a year in advance. You start making that choice. Each school will follow an academic cycle unique to it, except that the examinations will be taken in March for all boards. So that one thing is set. Now, either the school starts in April, school starts in June, and adjust the summer holidays accordingly. Admission process, all of this is simple. I think I'm going to get to some frequently asked questions. So why international education? Let's sum up before I take the question. So Dipta, you're with questions for me?
Yes, I have a few questions which have come from many of the parents. The first question was, which board is good if we have to choose from all the other boards?
Okay.
Then what board is best for taking up state and central government jobs? That was one more question which came. Then kindly include the elementary and Montessori board as well while talking is one, there was one suggestion there. Then innovation needed in teaching chemistry in a classroom. There's a lot of innovation required, so probably supporting the the innovation part which you covered in your speech is what was being covered there. How can we get further education after A levels?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's answer the question. The first question is, which is the right academic board for me? I think I've mentioned it several times. I lean towards international education simply because I feel there's enough thought about the future. I want to make sure, and I'm a mother of a 14-year-old, I picked the international board because I was very keen for him to understand that we do not come from a business family. We do not have a legacy or a foundation. Both husband and wife are professionals. And I want to make sure I give him the right education to be able to craft his own career. For me, therefore, the international education ticked the boxes. Cambridge is, for me, a forerunner in it, because it has everything. It has creativity, it has content, it has rigor, it has all that you need to show your foundation. The other question is, supposing I'm in the Cambridge board and then I have to go into A levels, assuming I've done 11, 12, finished A levels, what happens? A good question. Thank you for reminding me. Irrespective of which board you take, which is CBSE, which is IB, or which is Cambridge, the 13th year of higher education or end higher education is now also central processing. That means you can get into a national board college or an international program, what we call pre-university. Can you get in? Yes, you can. It's the same entrance exam that every child will take, irrespective of whether they come from international schools or national colleges. So even 13th is an entrance exam for students. The only thing is IB, with its IB diploma at 12th standard, the current entrance exams are clashing with the IBDP exams, which happen in August. So that's the only thing that clashes. So children who are in 11th and 12th then take a gap year. But this is not applicable for A levels been on time, like any national college, 11th and 12th, and then they have to give the entrance exam. So hope that clarifies it. You have equal and more opportunities to go into a national college or an international college. It doesn't matter. I told you it's a level playing field for everyone. Please understand that people who are in international education going abroad. I've heard this many times. Do you know 75% pre-COVID-19 kid in our country, they were going into national colleges, either at grade 11 and 12 or 13, 14, 15 after they finished A-levels. So that's a statistic. And post-COVID-19, I don't think anyone's going abroad. For the next years, people will live in this country and are looking at options. I know people who have already thought of national education abroad are now withdrawing. So guys, we're all going to be in this country, and thank God, because we have some quality education and national education available for 11th and 12th, 13, 14, 15th as well. Right. The other question, sorry, Sudipta, which was the other one?
Yes, so the Montessori thing, there's a question which is talking about, the Montessori education which goes up to the age 12. Now,
so Montessori, so Maria Montessori created, like IB, a philosophy of teaching. Okay, basically explore more. It's more touch feel. There's a science for how this scaffolding it does go up to grade 5, but after grade 5, what? So for me, advise parents, that's a significant part. I'm not into school hopping. I feel once you are part of one school, you should continue through and through. It's called stability. It's called nurturing relationships. It's allowing schools to build on the foundation. In some cases, parents may not know of Cambridge and now want to make that change. But it can't be all the time you're making that change. So necessary, again, it's working for a lot of families. I'm a bit concerned about its futuristic application. I feel there needs to be a little more depth in subjects. Quite frankly, there needs to be some sort of a to children's understand this world will work with a bit of written progress as well. And I feel Montessori doesn't tick all my boxes. It's great at a preschool level. Like, for example, at the Ashoka preschool level, we also integrate a lot of Montessori-inspired techniques. Even in the ICSE and in the Cambridge boards schools, they use a lot of energy. But following strictly might just be restricted if we're thinking about the future of our children.
Okay. There's one more interesting question which has come up, is that if a student wants to appear for national competitive exams like NEET, shall one change the board in grade 11 and 12, or can continue in the Cambridge board as well?
Quite frankly, with all these competitive exams, you can make that choice when what evolution your child, if you're thinking 5 years from now, I'm going to say anyway, things are changing. Because every board is also trying to make sure that the children are not missing out. For me, you should finish the Cambridge. That's my recommendation. See the entire program through, get that foundation going, and then take it. Again, this may be a country thing. We love to start early. If it's possible, our children will be in schools by 10 months, if it is physically possible. This hurry to do everything. I think we're pushing that. I think some things need a bit of science and a little bit of maturity. In the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of streamlining with competitive exams as well. I think you need to do an aptitude test. You need to understand the child's learning progress before you can decide which level when taking the exam. It's not so simple to answer. I'll need to understand your child. And I'm happy to answer that with more.
Will there be a gap year or a break at the end of grade 10 or 12 in case of Cambridge or IB, if one plans to study abroad thereafter?
No, it's seamless. So what happens with the grade 10 examinations, I've just told you, it's March. You get your mark sheets by May. International, if you're going abroad, so now 11th and 12th is also an option abroad. They're using your predicted grades. You know what we call prelims? The schools are predicting grades, so conditional offers are possible. There's no gap here. It's one after the other. The only difference is instead of national colleges starting in July, international programs will start in August, September.
Okay. The other question, I think it had come earlier also, how to understand that my child has the ability to excel or cope up in Cambridge or IB?
Okay, depends on which, Sudipta, can you write what age this parent asking me this question? What age is this?
Yes, could you please write, yes, 6 years.
Okay, 6
is what-
years. 6 years, they are precious primary kids. 6 years is too early to judge. The beauty is 6 years, because if the foundation is laid in a particular way and my brain is taught to receive information, to think, to answer with facts, you're conditioning the mind to be open. I've already mentioned that international programs are built for every child to succeed. So it's not that my child will get left out because, you know, she can't read. At 6 years, they what I call them developmentally still growing. So a lot of the sponge-like effects at age 6, 7, 8, great option to begin then. Unless the child has a learning disability, which is diagnosed somewhere around year when the child is about 8 or 9 years old, or even 7, 8, 9 is when psychometric evaluations takes place, and then you know that there is a learning disability. That's when you should be thinking about before that. At 6, the Cambridge board can mold your child.
There's a very similar question in line with this question, actually. It talks about differentiation in education. So there are different kids with different levels of understanding. So which board is good for which kid? So they want to say that, you know, if there is any specification that, you know, this board is suitable for this kind of level of student, is what the parent is asking.
You know what? You don't think like that as a parent. I think when you're picking a school, you're thinking about the future. You're thinking about where does my child need to be and what is the foundation I need to give with my child. Every school then works with a child's ability. And I'm going to say whether it's national school or international schools. It's just easier for international schools to do this and customize because they have smaller class numbers. Okay, you know, they have a lot more time with the children. It's not possible when you have 50, 60 kids in a class. Differentiation is a part of most progressive schools. You don't differentiate basis of IQ, but you differentiate basis of the attitude and the functional level of the child. It is much easier in an international school to do this, and I've mentioned because this is part of how the teachers are taught to teach.
Okay, then it says teachers are the core strength in Cambridge curriculum, but can you advise what should be parents' role in the ward's learning process?
Yeah, this is a tough one, parents, because, you know, all of us are well-meaning. I've had so many parents tell me, but see, I don't understand and how will I teach? So your role as a parent with this curriculum is what you're doing right now with your children at home. Giving them the right discipline, encouraging them to be independent, being responsible, staying on task with their homework, helping them when they're confused, basically being there to say, okay, my child doesn't understand. I'm going to encourage my child to speak to the teacher, or I'm going to write to the teacher and say, my child hasn't understood. How can you help? You are not taking over the teaching job. I think that is your role as a parent with international education, because whatever you try, you will not be able to teach. So don't even do that. Don't even go there. It's not a cut and paste job. The question that the teacher is posing is not something you'll be able to answer because you can't Google it and find it. It is what the child has learned in the classroom, part of a discussion, part of a handout. Allow the teachers to handle it with the children. I think that is the best part about international education. It's the relationship between a child and a teacher, and the parent playing the part of being a parent, helping the school understand that, you know, my child is a little afraid, is not able to, I tried this, I'm motivating it. This is your role. You are a teacher, you're there to support your child. Yes, the one role that is compulsory for you is to read and encourage your child to read. That is the one role in international education.
Okay, maybe we'll take just a few more questions. How many are you okay with? Yeah.
Yes, please. I want to make sure that I have every question answered. So
All right,
please.
all right. So we have one more question here, which says that over the years, how do you see the fees increasing for Cambridge and IB?
So between the two boards, I will say the IB is a very, very expensive proposition for management because of the royalty fee payable. And if I could just give you a statistic, it's actually close to 4 times more than what a Cambridge board is anticipating. From a board perspective, I think Cambridge recognizes that it works with Indian demographics, so there's a steady growth. It's not going to be exponential. For the simple reason is that they are actually closely working with school managements, and they're more receptive to flexibility. So it's going to be more affordable. Cambridge schools, IB does tend to get a bit expensive.
If the child wants to make a career in sports, then which board is preferable?
You should look at the international education for sure. Because PE as a subject is now offered at grade 10 as well. PE is a combination of not only biology, but also sports science related. So lots of options. Also, international schools invest in that child pursuing alternative careers. Because they can work, they can manage, they can mentor, they can hand over a bit of the work to families when they're touring. Also, can I be very honest, to have that international education and being a sportsman will be that perfect for it, just in case that kid doesn't make it to sport. Because I'm a sportsman's wife. I know there are only 11 that can play. You want to have a backing that's strong enough. And that's the reason why I picked international education for my son. He's a sportsman as well.
A very similar question that is pertaining to the business field. So if one wants to pursue a career in business, yes.
Okay, so I'm a product of an ICSE school. I will say this, I'm not sure Asta will be happy that I'm saying this because you do have an ICSE section. I just feel that I took business management. I did my master's in England. I have learned everything in that program. And I wished ICSE, when I took economics and accounting, had given me that. 5 years of a national board curriculum with Sydenham did not teach me. By the way, I'm an economics topper. I didn't learn anything. So I think it's not about content. It's about how it's taught, what it's taught. And I feel, therefore, international education gives you an option. As a businessman's daughter, I will say the entrepreneurial spirit, and this is my third educational startup, so I'm a veteran of 3. I think international education just gives you that well-rounded ability, subject choices. Like I said, business studies, business economics, accounting, even life skills, even history, geography, global perspectives in Cambridge. You need that. Today as business, I deal with Singapore, I deal with China, I deal with the US as well. I have an understanding of those markets. This tends to get restricted when you look at national board because it's just content. It's not opening your mind to anything else. Here, you're forced to think from all quarters. Remember, I told you we're linking subject areas as a whole. Again, I seem to be pushing out international education. I beg your pardon for that, but I'm just fascinated by what its potential is.
There's one question, which has been floating across WhatsApp and a lot of things, and it seems to have come here as well, is a notion that, IGCSE and IB, international curriculum, do not stress on spellings. They are not paying attention to, steps that are to be followed in mathematics. And, they ignore all these basics in, from grade 1 to 5, and they just stress on concepts. Yes, stressing on concepts is a good thing, but it seems parents are more inclined towards having these rectifications done, at the early age.
Yeah, okay. So Deepta, I'm going to answer this in another way. I think over my journey in 20 years, I would have easily interviewed or, 10,000 teachers easily. None of them can write an email. to save their life. And they are picture perfect on paper when they show me their essays. You do it for an exam and then you forget about it. International education, right from grade 1 up to grade 10, is all about relevance. Your narrative speech, your descriptive speech, your argumentative speech, how to communicate, when to communicate, what are the steps. You are getting marks for every step. So the spelling that you're talking about is assessed. Our English is not grammar as in subject predicate. There are 22 skills which are taught from grade 1 to grade 10. In fact, it's the most scientific scaffolding of how a language is taught and how it's assessed. Again, please don't pick your assumption basis of what your friend felt in some school that her friend's son went to. I also think when you pick a school that has some pedigree, that works with its own principle. Yes, it is true that internationally they do not value writing and spellings because they feel there is a spell check. You can do away with it. But in India, especially with the Indian schools, especially with the Ashoka schools, there is a lot of respect for spellings, for dictation, and that's how it's taught. So the rigor is right there. It's just that we make it more fun for the children to learn. We use, do you know our little babies in pre-primary, in the preschools, actually know what synonym is. This is nursery, junior, and senior. They just don't know it as synonym. They know it as another word for. So instead of saying beautiful, they'll say, that's stunning. This is a junior KG child. Because I can't tell them this is synonym. I have to tell them it's another word for. So please don't be under the misunderstanding that there's no dictation, that spellings are not important, that grammar is not important, that precis writing is not important. All of these skills are. In fact, math. Yes, the fact is they can use arithmetic calculators by 9th and 10th, but that doesn't mean we're giving the calculators at grade 1. We're building mental math skills. And mental math is not tables, parents. I get very, very saddened when parents say, my child knows tables 1 to 100. Great for you. Is that mental math? No. Mental math is the ability to think critically and understand sequencing, arithmetic and geometric sequencing. This is what we teach our children. So please, anyone who's telling you that it's not there does not then know and cannot represent an educator's point of view. In fact, they are more under focused because these are the steps they're assessing for. I mean, honestly, and I'm just going to say this. I know my son found it easier in a national board to take a national board exam because, he does these competitive exams and he aced it, but he didn't do so well in the international one because he made spelling errors and that wasn't accepted. So I'm just saying that, don't go by hearsay. There's a lot of science to how we teach. In fact, English is the toughest language. It's the most unscientific language to teach. So unless those 22 skills are taught in a scientific way, it won't be possible, and we break it down. And yes, it's very difficult to spell, schizophrenia. That's when we break it down to phonic sounds. That's when we tell them where are the tricky words, and that's the emphasis that we'll put on. So please recognize that this is a big part of what actually happens. So don't go on hearsay.
There's one question which says that, can you describe how a week in school looks like in Cambridge curriculum? Like when it comes to sports, music, studies, and everything combined together. So what kind of a schedule could be maintained in a Cambridge?
Like any other school, a day is broken up into 7 hours.
Curriculum school.
Yes, so a day is broken up into 7 hours, of course, because this is a state mandate and a national mandate. So it's not like they're coming to school for less amount of time. Just as kids will go into national schools, kids are going into an international program. In fact, what happens is with the usage of more block periods, by stretching some periods into 70 minutes, you're getting more time with the children. You can have more discussion, debates, because otherwise in a national board school, that period gets over and the next period starts. Because there is an emphasis on the overall development, there has to be at least a 40% inclusion of extracurricular activities which become co-curricular. So from a foundational point of view, primary years, there's a lot of emphasis also on co-curriculums, and that continues. But please understand, 9th and 10th, it will become 80-20. 80% academics and 20% will then be co-curriculars, because by then, children have had their foundation, know what they're good at. But till then, they don't, which is why they need that balance. And not all schools have a wide variety of co-curricular activities. So therefore, also pick a school that offers you all of that. There is a scope and sequence for every subject. So what I mean by scope and sequence is, for example, if I'm working with 220 days as an educator in a Cambridge school, I will have to plan my content in 3 terms, in 3 halves, in 3 parts, sorry, not halves. I will have a checking for understanding after every concept. I will have to assess them to make sure they know it, but not only for academic subjects, also for all co-curriculars. So art, drama, because art and design is a 9th and 10th subject. So is theater arts, so is PE. So I need to know what more can my child do apart from academic. You'll find there's a nice balance. In fact, you don't have to do more once it comes home, which is why they're so exhausted, because they're going through a lot through the day.
There's one interesting point put here. It says that, yes, can you hear me, Fatima?
Yes, I can.
Yes. It says, why do people from Indian origin who have studied in national boards are earning and doing better in, abroad than who have studied there?
Than who have studied there?
Yeah.
Oh, we're just smart as Indians. Now, wherever you put us, we will do well. And I think that's a little unfair, because quite frankly, today, Germany is creating the vaccines that Indians should have, considering we have all the brains. Look at COVID-19. Where is research today? Can anyone, please ask them to type this in. Which is the country that's leading the vaccine testing, the trials? Which is the country that's most likely to deliver the vaccine today?
Oxford started with, right?
It's actually Germany.
Germany.
It's Germany, it's Japan, it's England.
Yes.
Did I answer the question then? So one part is we are doing well because we are inherently hardworking people. When you have 1.3 billion people in the country, we fought for everything. We fight for every bit of attention that we can get. We're only fighting in this country to get somewhere because we're so many people. Inherently, we have certain skills, which is tolerance, resistance. We have riots, we have communal problems. We still rise next day after terrorism and get on with work. That's just inherently us. That has nothing to do with education. When you're talking about schools, now, you are also basing it on a statistic that was. Give it another 50 years, you'll see how international education will change that statistic. You are basing it on our generation. Of course, we went abroad because we didn't have opportunities here. But we also went abroad and came back and did well for our country. But I have pointed it out that I think it is education abroad that changed my perspective and has made me able. And today I'm running 3 successful organizations. I can reverse it. So let's not just base it on a generalization. I think inherently we have this power of being Indians. Can we do more with it? Can we create solutions for problems? That's the point of education. And I feel there we need then support and direction and foresight of a board that can take us.
There's one parent who has raised the hand, but I do not see a question. So Miss Tejaswini Deshmukh, I guess, could you please post your question there? It would be better. I would be able to answer your question then. There's one parent who says that why do we say that Indians are smart with hard work and thinking hats? All boards can do well in Ashoka. Doing with all board schools in Nasik. Formula is added innovation of thinking amongst students.
Sorry, so what was the question?
Yes, it seems to be a statement saying that Ashoka has the 2 boards running. So, and students are doing equally well in both. So probably that's what they are saying, the formula is innovation and thinking.
I absolutely agree with you. Thank you so much, parent. This is not about telling you. See, there are 2 things here, okay? One is you want to understand the science of how boards work, which is what I have done. You want to understand what the boards are thinking of when they're defining content, which is the part of this conversation. You want to understand what is the difference between the two, which you've understood in the conversation. What did I say at the start? I'm not comparing two boards. And I also feel an academic board works with which school you are in. What is that overall management vision? And I think somewhere the Ashoka Group is also thinking about the future. They're thinking that perhaps we need to look at international education as well, because if the whole country seems to be excited about it, the world is excited about it, perhaps we need to have that option for those parents who wish. Lots of families I met in Jan who were very happy to look at international. Some families said, Fatima, but what if I stay in ICSE with the Ashoka Group? I'm very happy. I said, please remain happy. This is not to convince you to move. This is to give you facts. Now, you go into a Starbucks today, you have 15 different coffees to choose from. Of course, that's your right. You will pick the coffee that works for you, that makes you happy. So please go ahead. For me, the Ashoka brand represents foresight, quality, dedication. And the best part is I love your children, the ones that I've seen already, and I have seen them in the ICSE in the Cambridge section as well. Our children are beautiful, whichever school, whichever board they go to. That doesn't change. This is just to give you an insight, honestly, because a lot of you have asked the questions, because you all needed to decide and you all weren't sure. So I think that's great. And this is the Ashoka management. This is where Ashoka Group comes together and says, we have all the answers, but eventually it's a family choice. And yes, Indians.
Yes. Fatima, I would like to answer one question from here, because it's pertaining to Ashoka. So maybe I could throw a little light on this question. There are two questions, one pertaining to subject selection, and the other is choosing the pattern of assessment, optional subjects vis-a-vis choice of optional subjects offered by Cambridge schools. So if it is pertaining to our school, if it is pertaining to Ashoka, we have a very, very elaborate subject selection process, which goes through psychometric analysis to, career counseling, and a lot of sessions which one-on-one happens with the children, with the career counselor and the parents. There's a psychologist also who goes through a lot of tests and everything with the children, after which there is a decision made as to how the child is inclined towards which field. Now the subject selections are after that, the forms are given to the parents, post which the parents take the decision as to what subjects to choose. So it's quite an elaborate process, and not making the children jump into conclusions just based on certain pre-notions that they have about choosing a career. So there's a lot of options which are given to the children.
Sudipta, I'm just going to add in as well. See, yes. I'm going to talk not on behalf of Ashoka. I'm just going to talk from an educator's perspective and letting a parent know. Yes. Please understand, every school and every school management will also be conscious of those subjects that are high scoring, that give that child the flavor, where they have their teachers best equipped to manage it. So you might have, CBSE has over 188 subjects, if I'm not mistaken. 188 subjects cannot be offered in a school, right? So every school will pick subjects that they believe they have the best capability to deliver, and therefore their teachers. From that, Sudipta has explained to you how the child and the family will be guided to taking the best subject selection that works for your family. There's a lot of thought process, a lot of science, and I feel one of the few schools that's doing it. Otherwise, schools leave it to parents and children, and that's their choice. So here they're not willing to let the children do it. They want to make sure that they are hand-holding and the best possible solution is generated for a family, because often parents are aspirational and children start getting demanding. No, I don't, I'm not good. I don't want to do this. Let me drop it. Let me take that one. And then they realize that going in higher education, they're stuck because they did a lower level math. So this is where the Ashoka Group expertise comes in.
Yes, so we are almost, there are just one or two questions. Maybe we can take, after which we do need to stop, is it? Yes, there's one question I'll just take two questions at a time because it's similar. One is that if my child wants to take a forensic lab job or as a doctor or a surgeon, then which is the board that I would prefer? So, what would that be?
Uh, looking at the way, I think you should definitely, well, ICSE, CBSE have split sciences, so does Cambridge. Just looking at the way the content is rolled out and the kind of practical knowledge available with the kind of case studies, the relevance of it, perhaps a little more deeper in international education. Have a look at the physics, chem, bio syllabus. So actually you should walk the parent through this syllabus.
Yes.
You'll actually understand the beauty of the questions, the beauty of the content, and how it's being assessed. You'll find a lot of benefit in therefore taking something that's a little more advanced than the national level.
Right. And with these specific questions, you can always get back to us. We have a panel of experts and we will obviously connect you to them. And of course, we are there as a, running the organization with being a lot of, carrying a lot of experience with us in international education. So we can guide you through this, and we have a panel of experts in terms of career counselors and people who will be giving you the right, view as to what would be the right career choice for your child and what you can do to take your child through. I'm definitely, positive about this, that if you seek help from our panel of experts, you will get all the answers to your queries. So, Fatima, do we end here today?
Was that the only question? Just ask for any other questions.
I just see a few more, but those are very specific. For example, if there is an eighth grade national level examination which you can take up, is there any eighth grade national examination? Not too sure of it.
No, unfortunately, what happens is Cambridge is the only board that will have checkpoint exams at 3, 5, 8, which actually benchmark you against the world. We do not have any national level. The ones we have are baseline exams, which honestly are more meant for budgets.
And, yes, this is one question which I think I missed out. It is that if a school change is needed, if a child needs to go for IIT preparation, post 9 or 11, is there a school change required or a curriculum change required?
No, not at all. Anyway, those entrance exams are in college. You continue to be in either of the boards, national boards or international boards. After grade 10 is when you start. Of course, a lot of parents feel that IIT requires that kind of grilling. This is where I feel international education will anyway equip your child, because it's all critical thinking, logic. In fact, your child has to read 6 books to even take that one exam. So there's a lot of volume that's done. A lot of doctors tell me, no, but Fatima, we've taken exams and we have to go through volumes and volumes of work. I said, well, that's actually happening in the K-12 segment as well for us in the international space. You don't have to read that much. It's not like, oh my God, I have to read. It's, oh, by the way, I had to also refer to this. I also have to research this. I also had to research it. So from a younger age, they're doing it. Please do not, there's nothing at grade 9. That's too early, parents. I know coaching classes are appealing to you all to do it, but it's too young. It's too young to start IIT preparation by then. And there's going to be a law against that as well. Enough of us feel that that's unfair to the child. Let the child read, let the child critically analyze, let the child, study enough of what is being sent home. You don't need it. You don't need this. Don't do it.
Okay, so we'll take the last question, which says it is important to have English as a primary language, or you need to be from English background to take up international boards?
Not at all. So please understand, this Cambridge board is applicable in 160 countries. Not all of them are English speaking. So do not feel that just because it's an international board means English. That's where I said the science of how to teach is actually taught, right from phonics to grammar and context, to those spellings, to paragraphs, to those descriptive essays. There's a whole process. Thank God the child is not already speaking English, because you know what? It's a sponge. And whatever we do from there is only upward. We don't have to unlearn what has already happened. So don't worry about that.
Thank you so much, Fatima ma'am. I'm sure everybody enjoyed your session, and there was a lot of information which I'm sure parents are going to take back with them. Thank you very much, parents, for being so cooperative, joining us in this webinar. And we look forward to meeting you again, maybe on a different topic, on some more questions or some more queries that would come up. But it was a great time that we spent together. Thank you very much, Fatima ma'am, for your precious time.
Thank you. Thank you. All the parents in Nasik, stay home, stay safe, enjoy your children at home. This is a great opportunity. Build on those relationships. And thank you, Ashoka Group, for building communities and allowing Mumbai to come to Nasik in a virtual way. Thank you so much. I hope I was able to, in some way, answer a few of your questions. If you do have any more, we'd be happy to take.